I think I've heard of worse things.
Give us a sense of the next steps with China.
Well, I haven't seen it because I've been here for 2.5 hours, so I'll be seeing it. I think Scott went out. Scott, you want to have a statement on that?
Sure. Look, the up 2, down 1 is not a bad ratio, or up 10, down 5. And I think as we have talked about, as we go through the queue and settle with these countries who are going to bring us their best offers, we will end up in a place of great certainty over the next 90 days on tariffs. We had very good inflation numbers today. Oil's down. We had a successful bond market. So I don't see anything unusual today.
And next steps for China, sir?
Well, we'll see what happens with China. We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
Mr. President, China retaliated today by reducing the number of American films that can be shown there. What's your reaction to them now targeting cultural exports from the United States?
I think I've heard of worse things.
Mr. President, if you aren't able to reach the deals that you want to see at the end of the 90 days, will you put those higher tariffs in place, or will you extend
Well, that's what
laws?
would happen. I mean, if we can't make the deal that we want to make, or we have to make, or that's good for both parties, it's got to be good for both parties. And then we'd go back to where we were.
Go back to the numbers that you announced last week.
I think so.
You wouldn't extend the pause?
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens at that time.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said yesterday you were considering some exceptions for companies. Can you talk about what you're considering? And then also on the reciprocal tariffs, you said they'd be substantially lower. Is the same math formula going to be used, or is that tossed out?
I'm not considering now for any country or company, but it's possible that I would. But I'm not. We don't have that situation right now. People understand where we are, what we're going to do. But it could happen. It's called flexibility. You have to have certain flexibility.
Mr. President, when are you planning on using the money that you're gaining from revenue through the tariffs on?
Paying down national debt, reducing taxes, creating good budgets, helping Christie with the border and all of the other things. I built hundreds of miles of wall, as people now understand, 571 miles of border wall in the first administration. But we're going to beef it up, and we're going to add more. And, the numbers are incredible, really. The numbers are what's taken place. We had great numbers, but these numbers are topping my last administration. And Christie and Tom Homan have done an amazing job, but it's an expensive process. This weekend, where they used to have hundreds of thousands of people standing there pouring through the border in Tijuana, Mexico, this weekend they had nobody. You had a man sweeping this massive piece of concrete, which is, the area where they said massive. And I've looked at that during the Biden administration. You couldn't see a piece of that concrete. There were so many people on it. You couldn't, if you had helicopter shots, you couldn't see concrete. Now, this weekend, you had nobody there but a man with a broom sweeping it and cleaning it up. Pretty amazing. It's really an amazing job. But it will be used for that. It'll be used for a lot of things. It'll be used by the Department of Justice for doing a great job. Pam is doing a fantastic job. So it's going to be used for a lot of different things.
On the 10% tariff, is that a basement? Is that the
It's a
floor?
baseline.
Can countries negotiate that to bring that
It depends
down?
on what they're adding. You know, some countries we have massive deficits with, or they have big surpluses with us, and others it's not that way. So it depends. That's why it's really they're all different. Every country is different. Some have certain advantages that others don't have, and certain things. We have some. China has a surplus of $1 trillion. I mean, the numbers are crazy, and others have basically no surpluses. You know, we have some that are pretty even, but they hurt us in other ways. One is a little bit different.
So are you negotiating with the EU as one bloc or individual nations for the tariffs?
We're looking at it as one block. They've been very tough, but they were very smart. They were ready to announce retaliation, and then they heard about what we did with respect to China and others, but China, and they said, you know, we're going to hold back a little bit. They decided to hold back. I thought they were very smart. Look, the EU is very smart, but they really have taken advantage of the United States. They were formed for the purpose of taking advantage of the United States. And I don't blame them, and I don't blame China. I don't blame anybody. I blame the people that were sitting at that desk in that other beautiful Oval Office for allowing it to happen. Many presidents I blame. They should have never allowed it to happen. And I'm doing something that a lot of them wouldn't want to do. But I'm here, I do those things, and we're going to make this country great again. We were taken advantage of by almost everybody. I sat back in the last administration. I would actually read them. I don't have to read them now. I know them so well. I would read some of these documents that were signed, deals, and I said, who would do a deal like this? Who would do it? You've seen it, Elon.
Yeah.
I'd look at deals where it's so one-sided. Even we have a deal with Japan, and we get along great with Japan, and we had the Prime Minister here. He was fantastic. As you know, Abe was great. Shinzo was great. He was a good friend of mine, unfortunately no longer with us. But we defend them, but they don't have to defend us. I said, that doesn't sound too good. But we have a deal, a defense deal. We pay hundreds of billions of dollars to defend them. But if for any reason, in other words, we pay all the money. They don't pay anything. But if we're ever attacked, they don't have to do a thing to protect us. I said, oh, that sounds like a wonderful deal. So that's just one out of thousands. And I just wonder who did this. And it's people that either hate our country or didn't care, an expression that you use. I think it's really a lot of them didn't care. It's just hard to believe how bad they are. Now that's a little bit of a defensive deal, but I'm talking about trade deals, the same thing. They're so bad, you would say, how come? And even when I'd renegotiate, like I'd go to a country, they'd give me everything I asked for. I said, why didn't somebody ask for it like originally? They give me everything. I think when they were negotiating, they didn't care, or they didn't ask, or they were shy, or they were very stupid, or they hate our country.